Toronto, this is John Kyo, and welcome to the Future of Food 10 by 10 CEO series. And I'm delighted to have with me today Tina Brillinger, the CEO of Global Food Safety Resource in Toronto. Hello, Tina.
Hi, John. I'm delighted to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, it's great to have you. We're both in the same city at the same time, and it's very hot outside. I'm going to put the heat on you for a moment right now and ask you in 1 minute if you can give me your personal pitch and the company's elevator pitch.
Great. Thanks, John. Yes, so my name's Tina Brillinger, and I operate Global Food Safety Resource out of Toronto, Canada. We've been operating for 10 years. I've been very involved with food on the food service side of the business and publishing, and combine my skills to develop an online platform like the Global Food Safety Resource and the Safe Food Training Hub. The Global Food Safety Resource, it's an online educational platform that provides education and now training to food companies and food professionals operating in global markets around the globe. So we provide articles, white papers, interviews and webinars, various kinds of multimedia content through numerous digital vertical platforms to really help inform food professionals about the best practices for compliance. Our latest innovation is the Safe Food Training Hub, which has taken almost 3 years to develop, and it's a leading platform that is cutting edge technology that will allow for food professionals to come and companies to take training for skills development and really help companies digitize their training, access training online, offline, but also maintain digital records of that training upon completion. There's a lot to that platform, and I'll get into that in a little bit later.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tina. So from your vantage point in providing that platform, obviously that's based on what you're seeing, what you're hearing from the food industry. But from your vantage point, what are the key issues that the food industry is dealing with? And how did you and why did you structure your platform in that way to try solve those problems?
That's a great question. I think that there's some really key interesting things here. I think technology in the food industry has really been underutilized. I'd say that that is the number one thing I've seen. I think we were really ahead of the curve for providing digital types of resources and to the industry because more and more people were going online to access that kind of information. But overall, what I'm seeing is that the industry is really slow to adopt technologies throughout their operations. I'm hearing it from people that are employed in these food companies that not enough investment is going into the companies on this side of things, both for training, but other internal systems to help really manage their food safety systems. So there's a real problem I see on that side of it. The other avenue is lack of training or really great training. Traditional training has been maybe within a food facility and they had to shut down the production lines for that training to take place. And there hasn't been a lot of updates to the training. Typically a lot of training is done through PowerPoint presentations and whatnot. But really, food companies need to take advantage of online training and access to find online and offline training like we have with our Safe Food Training Hub, that can meet the needs of their specific company and the various levels within that company. So I really think that that's a key thing. And also with the globalized markets and the supply chains, there's a democratization of education and training that really needs to take place here to really bring everybody up to speed with all the new regulations happening around the globe. It's really critically important because we're relying more and more on these, emerging and developing markets for, finished food products, but also ingredients. So everybody has to be on the same page. But how do you do that? Training is key to getting everybody up to speed. I think the other interesting part of the food industry and trend that I'm seeing is the emergence of new products, processes, and even ingredients. So when we're talking about like new markets, so we're in Canada, John, so marijuana has become legalized, and now we've got companies that are sprouting up all over the place, developing edibles, for example. And they aren't traditionally people that come from the food industry. So they don't have the basic food safety knowledge or training that's required to develop those products. So I think that there's a lot of risks in there, and that the governments need to really have a lot more oversight and push training, just like they have with the regular food companies for, a market like that. I think we're also looking at things like, different kinds of proteins that are being used in products, and including insects. And, how are these insects sourced? How can we be sure that they're safe to eat? And so I think that that's also another area that's kind of emerging. And also processes like fermentation, that is really growing. It's products like kombucha, vinegars, and whatnot that I'm seeing out there really growing, and it involves a lot of bacteria in order to make these products through the process. So I think that there's some risks there, and there needs to be a little bit more oversight to ensure that the safety of the products when you're dealing with fermentation. So those are really the three key things that I'm seeing that I think are real challenges.
Well, thank you, Tina, for that. And we have about 2 minutes left. So in that 2 minutes, you talked about democratizing the technology of the platform. And I think from that, we understand it's making it more accessible and making it more affordable. But and in the context of companies globalizing their supply chains, does language become an issue, the language that's used on the platform? And how do you address that?
Yes, absolutely. Language is a barrier to learning, and especially in countries where there's a lot of diversity. It's important that people in the company at all levels that have different languages as their first language can be assured that there's consistent knowledge base and training being applied. Global Food Safety Resource, our articles are available in 60 languages. So we have already a globalized audience that are coming and viewing our information, and it's the same information regardless of language. We hope to do that as well with the Safe Food Training Hub and provide different kinds of training, but also training in different languages. And I think that that's really critical, because if you have a workforce that is multilingual and maybe English isn't their first language, they need to be able to have access to training at the same level as everybody else and understand that training, the principles that are being shared in that training. And if they can access that, in their own like native language, I think it's really going to, improve the adoption and help build on that culture of food safety that we're all talking about.
Gotcha. In the last 30 seconds, Tina, you talked about new products coming on the market and the importance of training and education. And you talked about things like cannabis in Canada, insects, fermentation, and so on. So if you're up in front of 50 new food companies, 50 CEOs, what advice would you give them in 30 seconds or less?
I would say that they need to meet the minimum standards for food safety and have a HACCP plan implemented. Maybe use a consultant to integrate that. Record keeping is critical, and using technology to maintain those kinds of records, I think, is becoming more important. And I think the bottom line is being able to provide training of all kinds and at all levels, and investing in that training.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tina. And ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That's it for now. And thank you so much to Tina Brillinger for this exciting overview on GFSR from Toronto. And thank you, Tina, and best wishes to you and the team at GFSR.
Thank you so much, John. Have a great day.